Hello, I'm Locke Meredith. I'd like to invite you to join me on the next Legal Lines where we're talking about suicide prevention, serious subject. We're going to talk with representatives of the American Federation for Suicide Prevention. Megan Goldbeck and Danita Leblanc are going to talk to us about the horribly high numbers of suicides all over the nation, 704 per year in Louisiana. And they're telling us how to hopefully prevent that. So join us on the next Legal Lines with Megan Goldbeck and Danita Leblanc. I'm lawyer Locke Meredith. If you're Hello, welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and I'm pleased to have on the show for the very first time Megan Goldbeck and Miss Danita Leblanc. They are part of the group that runs the American Foundation for the Prevention of Suicide. Ladies, it's a serious subject. Thank you very much for coming in and talking to us about it. Normally I'd get up and shake your hands, but with two, I don't think we can pull that one off. So let's kind of dive in, kind of give folks a little bit about kind of why you care about this. Why do they care about what you have to say about it? Like, what is your educational background? What got you involved in this?
Well, so the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention's mission is to save lives and bring hope to those affected by suicide. And we're a volunteer-driven organization, so everything we do is dedicated to helping those who've either lost a loved one to suicide or who maybe experienced suicidal thoughts.
When I heard your initial sentence, I thought that's a very, very important point, because it's not just the person who's going through the thoughts of suicide. It is the family, friends, loved ones, extended in all directions, that suffer, honestly, for the rest of their lives. And so I'm glad to hear that. So as I understand it, y'all have some social work background, is that right, Danita?
I have a social work background, a clinical social work background. I've also worked in and around suicide prevention for over 40 years, and it's always been very dear to my heart. I have had friends and family who have attempted suicide, and I've known folks who've lost loved ones to suicide. So it's a huge problem that people don't think about until it hits them.
And you are right, it's huge. I mean, in my lifetime, I'm 60. I've had 6 of my friends commit suicide. From when I was in high school, a guy, one of my best friends, talking about it, ultimately did it 10 years later. Close friends in my 30s to 40s, attorneys, CPAs, all ages, all occupations, all socioeconomic backgrounds. It seems to reach anybody and everybody. So tell the folks, kind of, you said it, Danita, that we really don't perceive it as a huge problem until all of a sudden you're touched by it. And it's very tragic and traumatic. So kind of start telling us about the numbers.
So in the U.S. alone, over 47,000 Americans died by suicide in 2019.
So 47,000 per year as of 2019.
Yeah, and that's the most recent data we have available from the CDC. So, we have to wait to see what the future holds. Sure. Obviously, specifically in Louisiana, we had 704 people die by suicide in 2019. So it's a huge problem for our community.
Locally and nationally.
Yeah.
And the number for the United States seems big, and it is big, but it's about 130 or so a day. And I think of the Greyhound buses that hold 50 people. It's like 2.5 Greyhound buses every day. die by suicide.
And we've talked that I've done shows with military colonels and servicemen, Navy SEAL, Marine Scout, who have all been touched by it in one way, form, or another. I mean, as we were discussing earlier, 22 military folks per day kill themselves. It's incredible. And from my brief reading that I have on this, it's increasing, it's not decreasing. In the military deaths, the rate is like 4 times that of the general population.
It is. And one of the things that the military has found is that of those 22 a day, 17 never seek help.
Say that again.
17 of the 22 that die every day by suicide never seek help.
And this is the military folks. We discussed this component because, you know, in the I'm going to suck it up and survive, they don't want to look weak. That's my understanding of kind of what I think propels that not getting care, because they're afraid they're going to get tagged weak, or, you know, if they're in a Navy SEAL program.
Or unfit for duty.
Exactly. And you're concerned that down the road it could prevent you from getting promoted in ranks and such. So it's a quite a dilemma that we have. So what is it on the national scale? So you said 17 out of the 22 never get help.
Never seek help.
Never seek help.
Both the Veterans Administration and the different branches of the military have put a lot of suicide prevention programs and measures in place. That doesn't mean that the individual person thinking about suicide sought help that was available to them.
Retired Colonel Jeff Mitchell of the National Guard, he was of the entire chaplain corps in Louisiana, said that very thing. We've talked about all those programs and the outreach, but it was interesting, the Navy SEAL and Marine Scout said, you know, those programs are out there, but kind of when you're going through the debrief, when you're getting ready to pull out of service, they felt like, for whatever reason, it wasn't communicated very well, or even, I don't know what the disconnect was, but there was a disconnect between the folks that are trying to help and the folks who are suffering for whatever reason and pondering suicide.
And I've heard one veteran say that what kept me alive during battles, the sucking it up and focusing on the mission and keep going, what kept me alive is killing me now. Because
is kill me now?
Killing me now.
I
Because
see what you're
keeping
saying.
all of this to myself and not seeking help is harming me now. And I thought it was a very poignant way to kind of phrase it.
So what worked to be a great soldier did not work when you're in civilian life?
Did not work at not being in pain, or did not stop you from thinking about suicide.
So interesting. So tell me some more about the numbers. I noticed that in Louisiana, and I think it was the graph was related to Louisiana, it's chopped up by age, like 0 to 15 or something, and then first category is like 20 years, and the next 3 were 10-year increments.
Yeah, so we kind of break it out in blocks like you were mentioning. It's the 3rd leading cause of death for youth and young adults ages 10 to 34. It's the 5th leading cause of death for adults 45 to, I believe it's 55. And then it's the 4th leading cause of death from 55 to mid 60. So it's a really big problem. And, you know, we talk about mental health services. I want to mention too, in Louisiana, only 25% of people actually get access to mental health care in our state if they need it. So that means 75% of people who need mental health care don't have access to it.
Because the key words that I focused on them was get access, right? Are you saying that the mental care does not exist so they can't access it, or it does exist but for whatever reason they can't get to it?
Well, you know, we always want to have more mental health care, right? Every state has a problem with low mental health care numbers, whether it's providers, behavioral health centers in close proximity. But we find there's a lot of barriers for people for access to care. So maybe it's transportation.
Okay, we'll talk about this on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith, Legal Alliance. We're talking about suicide with Megan Goldbeck and Danita Leblanc. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Sean Fagan of Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan & Associates. Open the phone book or look online. There are plenty of lawyers to choose from. And if you ask any of them, they'll agree that the vast majority of claims settle without ever having gone to trial. And I'll tell you, any lawyer can settle a claim. It's not hard to settle a claim, but it takes hard work to get a client what he or she deserves. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan & Associates, we have a proven record of working hard for our clients. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. We're talking about suicide prevention. We're talking with Megan Goldbeck and Miss Danita LeBlanc. They are part of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Ladies, let's dive back in. So we were talking about, is there a problem? And heck yeah, there's a problem. We were talking about the numbers. I think it's 704 Louisianians kill themselves per year. It's in the tens of thousands for the nation on an annual basis. Let's talk about, kind of zoom in a little bit and tell me a little bit more about the folks who, the divisions of the numbers so we have a better idea. We did it by age. Tell me what other factors we're looking at.
Well, you know, you look at factors like race, ethnicity. You know, we have some increases in minority communities and suicide rates, which are incredibly alarming. And then, you know, you mentioned military, healthcare workers have high suicide rates, folks who are incarcerated have high suicide rates.
I heard chefs.
Yeah.
Top chefs have, and dentists.
Yeah, it's really...
I can understand, never mind. I'm not going to say dentists, but anyway, go ahead.
Profession is one way to look at it. Another way is gender, and men kill themselves at a higher rate than women. Is that right? Yeah.
Do we know why?
We have a lot of theories, including help seeking is not necessarily
same thing with the military. Suck it up.
Yeah, type of thing in our culture. But men kill themselves at a higher rate, and women attempt more often than men, but men die at a higher rate. And nationally, 50% of the folks who die by suicide use a firearm. We love our guns in Louisiana, and unfortunately, 68% of our deaths are with firearms.
In Louisiana. So the bottom line is, from that stat, is if you know someone's down and you even suspect just a nano bit that they're considering suicide, you better get any and all guns out of there. Protect them from themselves.
Right, because in studying folks who almost died by their suicide attempt, and lots of folks over years, what they found when they asked them the decision to act and your action, you've been thinking about it for a long time, but that time frame, how long was it? And over 40% of the time was less than 10 minutes.
So the first thought enters their brain, and 10 minutes later they're doing it? They're committing suicide?
They may have been thinking about suicide for quite some time, but the decision that now I'm going to act on it, that decision from there to
the event
is 10 minutes, over 40% of the time. It's less than an hour for another large percentage, and often within a day. So it does tend for many folks to have some type of personal crisis that's involved. It involves generally a lot of pain that's personally experienced, and a loss of hope and a helplessness to be able to do anything about it, or feeling like a burden to the people around them. And in a weird way, sometimes the burdensomeness comes across and they firmly believe it is like, my family will be better off without me. Because often others will say, well, that was really selfish. But
they're not
very
thinking
often,
right. They're not thinking. I have two close friends who committed suicide who convinced themselves that was the best thing they could do for their family. Right. To deny that relationship for the rest of their lives. Right. And all the other trials and tragedies that come from it. So, you know, we also talked about the cost before the show of if you add up that 704 individuals, Louisianians, who kill themselves per year, it was like 14,500 years of life that is lost. life where they could have poured into other folks, life that they could have invented the new internet or whatever. You know, the production and creation is gone.
And, you know, it takes such an emotional toll on families. It's an incredibly tragic way to die, and it leaves a lasting effect on families. And then when you look at it from an economic standpoint, the U.S. loses $69 billion.
$69 billion.
With a B, yeah.
Every year?
Every year due to suicide. And that's healthcare costs, productivity loss, you know,
contribution to society
exactly.
is the bottom line.
So, you know, from an economic standpoint, it takes a huge toll on our country. And then, you know, most importantly, though, the toll that it takes on the families, and losing a loved one to suicide actually puts others at risk for suicide.
Megan, I was about to cue in on that. One of those very close friends who recently killed himself, his son committed suicide within a year or so thereafter. It was just unbelievable how sad this is. So, you know, let's kind of chop up the audience, so to speak, right? So if let's say I'm considering suicide, what are the things you do, the words you say, the activities that you pursue or don't pursue, if you're trying to comfort me and give me that hope and calm me down and perspective? Y'all guide me on that. I know there's words you should use and not use and such.
One of the first things we need to know to help is whether or not someone might be thinking about suicide. And often the people around someone thinking of suicide may notice some differences in the way they're behaving or the way they're speaking. And so if you notice a lot of changes in mood and behavior and speech that have a finality to it, it's okay to say, I've noticed all these things. And sometimes when people are doing these things, they're thinking about suicide. Are you thinking about suicide? And it gets it out on the table. We're scared to death that if we ask the question, that we're going to put the idea in their head. And there's no evidence at all that that's what happens.
So how quick do you wait to see if it's a more of a pattern of speech and behavior? Or is it the first time you hear it, you kind of interject yourself?
I've done this for a long time, so I interject pretty quickly. I think most
you got
folks
nothing
wait
to lose,
alone.
right?
Right. People fear that their loved one may be angry at them, and I always would rather have them angry at me and alive than not angry with me and dead. So it is okay to talk about suicide. It's okay to ask about suicide. And while you're doing that, don't ever underestimate the power of your presence in the midst of someone's pain, because that is a powerful protector when somebody's thinking about suicide, that someone is letting them talk about it, that you are accepting of what they're saying. You're not trying to argue with them or talk them out of it or judge them. The powerful, caring presence is huge.
All right, we'll continue this on the next segment. It's Locke Meredith with Legal Lines. We're talking about suicide prevention with Megan Goldbeck and Danita Leblanc. We'll be right back.
I'm lawyer Collins Locke Meredith. Trust is important when hiring an injury law firm. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan Associates, thousands have trusted us and gotten the results they deserved. Visit us at LockeMeredith.com. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call, 272-5555.
Hi, I'm Mitchell Meredith. Injuries happen when you least expect them to, making your life more complicated. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates, we know this and we strive to help each of our clients during these times. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call at 272-5555.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. We're talking about suicide prevention with Megan Goldbeck and Danita LeBlanc. They're with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Ladies, Danita, you were earlier speaking about kind of almost emulating what you can do. Why don't y'all do that? Why don't y'all say you're sitting in a restaurant somewhere and you're friends and show folks how you might go about this? So who wants to be the counselor or the friend? And
I'll be the counselor. You want to be my
Okay.
friend?
I am.
And we're meeting for lunch, and we're both at the table. Okay. So, Megan, it's really, really good to see you, and I've been kind of concerned about you because you haven't been returning phone calls, and when we've invited you out, you've told us no, and you know how much fun we have together, and you just seem to be a lot more sad than normal, and I'm concerned about you. You've had your husband leave recently, and I know that's something to be depressed about. But with the changes that I've been seeing with staying home, isolating, feeling sad, not coming out, not taking care of yourself, I'm concerned. And I'm wondering if you might be thinking of suicide, because sometimes people do when they're hurting and something big has been lost from their lives.
Yeah, I have been going through a lot lately. It's been really tough, and I have been thinking about hurting myself.
And when you say hurting yourself, are you thinking about killing yourself, or are you talking about cutting yourself?
I'm thinking about what it would, be like to be dead.
Okay. I'm sorry that you are in so much pain. That seems like your best solution right now. But I'm wondering if you'd be willing to talk to me, or we could call the crisis line to kind of help us understand the best way to keep you safe right now.
I think that would be really good. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can go call them from your car if you want, and then we can talk to them together. Okay?
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll dial 1-800-873-8255.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
powerful.
And even if suicide doesn't end up being a concern, it's still great to have a supportive conversation with somebody who could be going through a crisis, or maybe he's in a pre-crisis situation.
And for someone to realize that somebody cares about them.
Absolutely.
I mean, the power of love and relationship, there's just nothing greater. Very, very poignant.
It's very powerful. But sometimes people who are in that much pain are almost on the wrong channel and don't feel the love that's broadcast at them from everybody else. So
Interesting.
So they may feel alone, even though if they died at their funeral, folks would say, "Didn't he know I love him? Didn't he know how important he was to me?" But they're feeling sometimes, when the thoughts are not clear, that they are alone. And the demonstration of a very caring presence kind of negates that, because it is so powerful to have someone accept and listen and not judge.
So should it be family members that confront a family member, not in a bad way, but engage with them, or should they pull an outside source? I mean, I assume it requires a relationship of some kind.
Right.
I think everybody has a role in suicide
Yeah.
prevention. We've left it for years up to those people and the mental health professionals and the hospitals. And what we're finding is that the people around someone thinking about suicide are the ones who notice the changes first. They already have a relationship with someone, and building on that relationship to, are you thinking about suicide, and let's get you some help, is real important. We may still end up with mental health professionals, but not everybody needs that when they're thinking about suicide. We can all be aware, we can ask someone about suicide, and we can connect them to help.
So in what y'all's demonstration there were a few key things that you focused on in Megan's behavior or changes that were signals for you. Itemize those for us, please.
So you're looking for things that are changing an individual in their talk, behavior, and mood. So talk is maybe saying things like, "I am a burden to everybody," or I feel like I want to die. Even if they're joking, it's important to take that seriously. When you're looking at behavior, it's, you know, I'm not showing up to activities that I really love to do.
Withdrawn?
Yeah, I'm acting just, you know, strange. And then mood, maybe I'm more irritable, I'm kind of impulsive, sleeping a lot or not sleeping enough. So those are all things that we can watch out for in our loved ones. And talk to them about that. We have an initiative called Seize the Awkward. It's a partnership with the Ad Council, and it's about seizing that awkward conversation that Danita had with me to really make sure if I'm in a good place, and if not, you know, do I need to talk to a trained professional about mental health care?
All right. Now, I know that there were other events coming up here relatively soon. First of all, give folks the number. I know you can call a number for help. You can text a number. And then you've got some events and different ways folks can reach out and participate.
The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline will connect you to the crisis call center closest to you. And we have 2 in Louisiana, so that's where
Do we
go.
have one in, where are they?
One's in New Orleans and one is in Shreveport. So that number is 1-800-273-TALK or 8255. And there's over 180 call centers in that network in the U.S. If you prefer to text, there's a national crisis text line. And so you can text.
I think it's TALK, right?
Yeah, talk to 741-741.
Okay.
There's different taglines.
No, it's interesting. My initial response would probably be, oh my God, you know, somebody I love or care deeply about is about to do something bad to themselves. Maybe I should call EMS or a policeman or, you know, a lawyer, you know, to have them involuntarily committed or whatever. What are y'all's quick thoughts on that? We only have 1 minute left.
I am not sure that's always the best consideration. People may need assistance, but it may be assistance at a lower level of care. Going directly to an involuntary commitment with law enforcement and hospitals and legal commitments may not be the best thing. And in some cases, we're beginning to think it might actually be harmful.
Okay, tell us about the walk quickly.
It's our Out of the Darkness walk on Saturday, October 23rd at Lamar Dixon Center. And it's an opportunity for us to honor the loved ones that we've lost to suicide and to celebrate those who are affected by suicidal thoughts. So we hope that you can join us.
Fantastic. Megan Goldbeck, Danita, Leblanc, thank you very much. This is Locke Meredith with Legal Lines, talking about preventing suicide. Thank you for being with us.